Alright, this movie is going to show you how to get onto SketchUp and how to use some of the basics of it. So I'm going to take you right from the beginning, and I'm going to be typing this in and doing a search directly through my browser. So one of the really cool things about this one is you don't need to download it. The old versions you did, but this one works online perfectly well. So what we're going to do first is click on the SketchUp free. And that will take us into a page where traditionally up here you would need to log in. I'm already logged in, so you'll have to do that step yourself, and that's where you can either create an account on their system, or you can use a Google account, which is a really handy thing to have for a lot of online systems to sign in. So because I'm signed in already, I'll click on the Start Modeling button. And that will sometimes takes a few seconds to load up, but it's effectively downloading everything and storing into my RAM so that it can run directly through my browser. So here we go, we're on this section, and we're going to just click on the blue Start Modeling button. And that'll take us into this world. The first things that you'll see is a whole bunch of buttons and options on the side, and there's some other features on the right hand side over here as well. So what I'll do, I'll take you through some of the essential things to get you started. The first thing of note is that there's this image of the lady, and she's there. You can delete her, but she's there for a really important reason, and that's to give you a sense of scale. So when you're modeling and building, and we'll be getting onto doing some construction type jobs in here and modeling some houses, you can put in specific measurements, and having the figure of the lady, or in other versions it might be a different character. Traditionally it's changed every time there's a new version of SketchUp, but they are there for that particular purpose of giving you the sense of scale of how large a person is in this environment. Now we've also got these blue, green and red lines, and they are your axes. So as we're going through and doing some modeling, you'll see these shift around, but you can see your blue one, in accordance to where that lady is, the blue one is going straight up into the air, and then you've got the green and the red going along the ground. Now I can press down my middle mouse button, and that will allow me to orbit around, and you can see those axes and the lady moving. So as I shift up a little bit, so my horizon moves down, you can see that the blue line is sticking up, and the other lines start to get a little bit trickier to see because they're closer to the horizon. So this orbit feature is really handy, and you'll need to use it quite a lot when you're doing modeling in 3D. And that is essentially because we're working in a 3D space, but what you see is limited on a 2D computer screen interface. So you have to keep moving around so you get that idea of where things actually are and how large they are and how far away they are. So it's important to keep moving, keep orbiting around, and keep shifting your perspective to see things. So we've gone through as far as pressing down your middle mouse button, but you can also scroll it to zoom out and to zoom in. So it's a really handy feature. If you're trying to use this and you don't have a mouse with a middle mouse button, there are some other workarounds which I'll take you through soon. But if you can get one, it's really handy to have it, because another feature you can do is to press Shift and your middle mouse button, and that allows you to do what's called panning. So you're basically dragging your world around. So if I let go of Shift, that's where I'm orbiting, and I'm sort of spinning around a central location, but Shift allows me to move my entire world. So Shift plus my middle mouse button being held down. So we've gone through some of those features of how to look around. Let's get on to actually doing some drawing so you can see how things look in this world and how to create. So over here on the left hand side we've got our menu. Lots of different features we'll play around with as we go through these videos, but the first one we'll click on is the rectangle, and that's what we want to draw. And you can see there are other shapes here, and we'll look at a few of those later. So in the rectangle we'll click on that, and I'm just going to left click and drag. And you can see right there that I've now created a rectangle that is sticking up in the air. Now, if I wanted to draw it so that it was sticking directly down on the ground, so it was lying flat, the best way to do that is to shift your camera angle or your perspective up, so you're looking down a bit more, and then when you click and drag, the program does a really good job of guessing how you want the shape to actually be displayed, or the orientation of it based upon where you're looking from. All right, so if I wanted one to appear along this green axis over here, sticking straight up in the air, my best option would be to look directly at it, then click and drag, and you can see that one's stuffed up a little bit there. That's not where I wanted it to go at all. So I'm going to undo that, and I'll just change my perspective a little bit more. I'll make it even more obvious that I want it straight up in the air, and that's put that into that right orientation now. Okay, so have a bit of a play with that to make sure that you can create shapes that the way you really want them to. And you'll see that if I create one really long shape, I'm going to zoom right out and pan down a little bit. I'm going to create a large rectangle here. And if I shift my perspective down, you can see that that starts looking like a trapezium. And without the ability to use your orbit tool to move around to see how long that is, that could look like quite a short trapezium. It's hard to tell. So really important that you're always using the ability to move around to get that perspective of where you are in your world and what your shapes actually look like. Okay, now as well as using the shortcuts of the pan and the orbit, you can also select some of those options here. So this is for those of you that are missing that middle mouse button. So this one is your orbit. If you click on it with your left mouse button, then your left mouse button will allow you to do that. And the same goes with the pan, which gets represented by the hand, because essentially you're grabbing onto the world and you're moving it sideways or up and down. All right, so if you play around with those features a little bit, that'll help you out. Now we've been focusing predominantly on using rectangles, but if we wanted to create another shape, then we can use our circle, for example, and that will just draw like that. So I've been using my left mouse button to click, hold it down, and to drag, and then let go, and it does one. You can also single click, move your mouse, and single click again, and that will do the same thing. So whatever works well for you. So what we're going to get onto now is one of the really cool features of this program that most people like using the first time they're playing around with it. And that is this one here called the push-pull. Now we'll click on this one, and that allows us to hover our mouse over different shapes that have got a fill. So these are solid shapes. They've got an outline and they've got an internal color. And as I hover over them, that changes a little bit, and it shows me that I can do something with this. I can interact with this. So by left clicking and dragging, I can suddenly turn what was a flat two-dimensional shape within a 3D world. I can transition that from being a flat 2D shape into a three-dimensional shape like we've got here. And it doesn't stop there, because I can also then click on a side and I can keep on adjusting this with the push-pull. So it's a really powerful tool. And I can do the same thing for these ones. I can drag downwards as well. So you can have a bit of fun with that. And you can even go back onto your drawing tool. I'll stick with a circle at this stage. I can draw on the side of, and I'll keep it a little bit smaller, draw on the side of that shape there. If I get onto my push-pull tool, and then I can also modify it that way. So yeah, it's really, really cool. It'll have limitations. So if I try and go past here, it struggles because it can't really go past where that pipe or the bit that's sticking out the side is coming from. And the same will happen with the top. So you've got to do a little bit of forward planning before you start going too crazy with where you're playing with all of your different shapes. All right, so we'll leave it there at this stage, because this has taken you through quite a lot of features of using this system, as far as how to get onto it, how to do some of the shapes, how to move around, the purpose of the lady figure there, these different lines showing you different axes and directions of where you're putting things, and how to use features like the push-pull. So the next few videos will take you progressively through a little bit more, but before you go any further, play with this, all right? Try some of the different shapes out, try these different features, and make sure you're comfortable with them before you go, or before you take it to the next step. Okay, good luck with it.